Hello, and welcome to Dan and Ian Have Questions. Are you interested in people's unique hobbies, passions, and how it all gets started? Well, you're in the right place. These two, like many of you, know a little bit about a lot and always have questions. Let's sit back, relax, and enjoy as they find out what makes everyone so interesting. This is the Dan and Ian Have Questions podcast.
What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. How you doing?
All right, just chilling.
Hey, Vanek. My name is Dan, co-hosting on this thing too.
Hey, good to meet you, Dan.
Yeah, nice to meet you, man. I really appreciate you, hopping on and hanging out with us and answer some questions that we have.
Sweet. Yeah, no problem. Cool.
How was well? First off, you're back after was it last weekend? First show back with Midnight since would you say February last year?
Yeah, I mean the last legitimate show we did was February. I think it was Now That's Class in Cleveland.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, we did a couple in 2020. Actually, we were flying home from Europe, on New Year's Day or whatever, because we did that tour with Venom. And then when we came back, we did a week later, I think two shows in Brooklyn, and then the one at Now That's Class in February. And we were going to leave to go on tour, and that's when it all hit. So that was it. Yeah, so it was cool to get back to it because the last show was Now That's Class, and the first show back was in front of 12,000 people.
Yeah, now that's Class, Dan, is like basically just a little punk rock bar in the area, and they have a stage off on one side.
Yeah.
It's super.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild because we walked. I mean, we played Psycho Vegas before that Las Vegas Fest, and it was great. But this one, I mean, it was the main stage. I don't think at that time we really understood where we were at because a lot of bands have been coming on and off since all this happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, once we got there, like, oh shit.
Yeah. Sean, your vocals are still really low on my end.
That louder?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little louder.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems like it's better.
Yeah, that's better.
He's like, I'm not even doing nothing. You're doing one of those things on the other end where you're like, does that sound good? Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, it's just a interface I have here. I mean, I use this for like teaching Zoom lessons and stuff.
Right.
Are you doing a lot of that lately?
A little bit, not really. I mean, I used to teach guitar and stuff full time for years. I mean, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years, I guess. And at some point, I just got sick of teaching freaking Carrie Underwood or whatever the hell kind of BS that is. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this. Are you kidding me? Am I gonna waste time teaching these tunes? So yeah, I put a flyer out. I don't know, maybe a year ago or by now, and I got some hits, and it's cool. I just have one main student right now, and then I go in and out between a couple people who are like, hey, can I just get a quick lesson or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to really teach much. It's just kind of like if somebody asks for it, I'll teach them. If not, whatever, it's no big deal.
And where are the students? Where are they from? Are they like all over the place, especially since you're Zoom teaching?
The one guy I got right now, I have a guy in or kid actually. I think he's 12 or 13 in New Hampshire.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
Next state over from me. I'm in Massachusetts. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because he saw us on tour with Midnight. His dad took him to the show, and they went to the Boston show that we did at that point on the
cool.
Electric Wizard tour that we did at what the heck was it, the Palladium or?
Oh yeah, was it the Worcester Palladium?
Yeah, Worcester Palladium. That's right.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
Yeah. It's now Worcester has become kind of like the metal mecca, where a lot of metal bands would be touring. That's where they would be going. They'll be saying like, yeah, we'll be going to Boston, but in reality, they'll be going to Worcester.
Yeah.
And that's like a good 2 hours away from me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think I went to a show in Akron and they were like, hello, Cleveland. It's like,
Yeah,
dude,
right.
Not that close.
I mean, everything is relative. You know what I mean? Depending on where you're at, and
Well, there's that goofy Rancid and Dropkick Murphys Berkeley to Boston tour, and they actually were nowhere close to Boston when they started that.
Nice.
oh my god.
But
Great.
basically, let's see. I guess we'll just start. I don't know, from the beginning. So you were born. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was born.
And then the
was
world,
born
the
once.
world was complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you pick up the guitar again? Was it like 7th, 8th grade? No, it had to have been sooner than that.
For the first time, it was, I want to say 2nd or 3rd grade.
Oh wow!
Like I remember going. Yeah, I remember going over a buddy's house. Let me see. No, maybe not. Maybe 3rd or 4th grade. That's about right. I went over a buddy's house, and his cousin had a band, and they would practice there. And I remember just like sleeping over his house the one night, and we watched his cousin's band practice, and I'm like, oh man, that looks like so much fun. And I had no idea how to play. And actually, my dad had a guitar in our house that my brother picked up, and he started messing around before I did, and I always used to watch him. He used to make me watch him do everything, like play video games and all that kind of stuff. He never would let me play. You know, I never would be able to pick up the guitar or anything like that. But so back then it wasn't really serious. Like I would pick it up and like, you know, mess around with it. And it wasn't until like I went to a garage sale, and I think I picked up Master of Puppets on cassette or something like that. And I was like, I couldn't stop listening to it. You know, I would listen to it upstairs in my parents' house. And that was probably around 5th, 6th grade. So I would say to become serious about it, it was like 5th or 6th grade in elementary school.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your brother, who was Jay Vanek, who has basically been your partner in crime since the beginning in many different ways. Like you said, bringing the guitar in the house, and now to you guys even being in Vandalus as the new iteration of you guys. So yeah. He's always got the inspiration for me. I mean, it was cool because at least I had an older brother to kind of like show me stuff. Sometimes I wouldn't be into it, and sometimes I'd be like, well, I don't really know if I like this or not, but it's something to listen to, so I'll check it out. Because I feel like at the end of the day, our styles are quite different in some ways. I mean, we like, you know, pretty classic sounding stuff, but there's a lot of different classic sounding stuff, if you know what I mean. You know, you got Venom 80s, and you got like Aha 80s. Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're talking about music, at least. But it was cool though, because like I said, you know, he would pick up, you know, metal records, and then I would check them out and then learn more about bands, and it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think through him was basically because like you said, he would just buy CDs constantly. You know, you'd have some new band that he somehow found out about, and it seemed like I remember a lot. It was power metal back then.
Yeah,
a lot of power metal.
Because, you know, at the end of the 90s, because that was about the time when, you know, I really was getting into stuff, which was the late 90s. And like, yeah, he would always find like stuff. I'm like, what is that? Hammerfall? What, you know, those later 90s or second wave, I guess you can call it power metal, which I would say power metal originated with bands like Savage Grace or Manowar or something like that, where it was the 80s, you know, then it kind of transcended into something a little bigger. But yeah, he would find out about all those bands, Iced Earth, and things like that.
Yeah, that was the I think that was my turning point with power metal sound was Iced Earth, because it had that harder edge to it with those, you know, it wasn't just
when you kind of came. That's when you kind of came into the picture with all that stuff. You know, I mean, that was like 7th, 8th grade. You know,
yeah, 8th grade when we met. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was always the one that was bringing the new bands. I was never searching anything out. I was just kind of taking the lead from you guys, you know.
Yeah.
As far as like what was going on at the time.
It was cool because I did have him, but I also was Eric's brother Joel. Now I feel like in a lot of ways led me into a more structured path of what I've kind of, you know, been following over all these years, because he got me into bands like Kiss.
Yes, exactly.
You know, stuff like that. Like that band had always stuck, you know, Kiss, Metallica, Motorhead, those bands I listened to since day one, but I still love them. You know, there's something about the music and the sincerity of it that I was just like, oh man, well this obviously is the real deal, you know.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that you say like Kiss and like Motorhead and such. I mean, when you formed Midnight, were you looking at those bands for influence, or you were looking for something totally different? Or...
Yeah, well, the Midnight stuff's not me actually. I mean, that's all my compadre Athenar Jamie. He started that thing out like that was originally created as, I think he kind of just wanted to put a record together that sounded like very early, Venom or something like that, and you know, kind of that quality, and just to do it because at the time I think it was with the first Midnight release was 2003. There was nothing like that, you know. That was like the turn of when Pro Tools became big and this heavily edited music started becoming mainstream.
Right.
And you know, again, even with like the power metal stuff like that, and this was kind of against the grain at that point in time. And he just is like, you know, it's just a fun thing. It was never a band. It was just him. He played all the instruments. And I didn't come into play until later because, I mean, the band actually was very slow moving in the early stages, like from 2003 till even like 2008 or something like that. It was very like one-offy kind of stuff, and there was EPs here and there. And then the first album came out. The first legitimate album was 2011. And then I joined shortly after that. So that's when it was like, oh, okay, there's a record out. Now let's make this a band. And, you know, I knew Jamie from the Destructor days because he played in the band called Destructor, which is an 80s Cleveland band.
Still going, still alive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They still put records out. And Jamie played with those guys for years. Actually, about the same time he started Midnight, he joined Destructor and then left, you know. I don't know, actually around the time I started playing full time with Midnight, really. So,
oh, wow. So he was still doing it even that far in, or that late.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was in the band that late.
Well, yeah, because Midnight, like I said, was never a full-time band in the beginning. It was very like, okay, I'm playing with Destructor now, but I also have this cool project that I'm just doing because I have these ideas in my head, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, he's silly and likes his you know, like listens to the Mentors and things like that, which is what's cool, you know, against the grain. And that's kind of like the idea of lyrically. He's like, yeah, this is kind of funny, you know, it's fun. It's you know, it's a good thing to do, I guess.
Oh yeah, he is a that was the one most disarming things. I was like, the first time I was going to meet him, I'm like, is this dude going to be like, Sean, is he like super intense or something? Because you see the imagery, but then you meet him and he's just totally just a he's a laid back goofball.
It's like anything else, dude. You get into Star Wars, you get into anything, you know. I mean, you just get into it. You like it, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the subject matter is. There's something about it that that draws you to it, you know. And with music, there's so many things that could be, you know. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to abide by all those rules. You just are intrigued by it, you know. I've always followed the path of Lemmy throughout my whole musical thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean I kind of live my life to the T and do that exactly the same. I just like his principles. I like his way of thought.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I have noticed, like with hanging out with band members, you know, through the years, that I was never in a band or anything like that, but I was always in the music scene, and I always come to find out that everybody has like the same brand of humor, and they're all like super chill and relaxed, and it's like their persona when it comes to like on stage and off stage are like a night and day, and they're like the most like chillest people when you like go out and hang out and dinner or whatever, and the conversations that they have are so ridiculous. So yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying about, you know, you follow the ways of Lemmy, but not to the full extent. Well,
you know, and that's a good point, because I feel like, you know, like let's backtrack to the 80s a little bit here. Let's talk about the early 80s when metal was just like, these people just wanted to take over the world. They were normal kids, you know. We'll start with Metallica in 83, okay, from the West Coast. You know, these are kids wearing jeans with ripped jeans with holes, and they looked like they slept in a freaking U-Haul truck.
They did.
Right.
They did. They did, right?
Yeah.
And they were kids, and then people started catching on to, oh man, people like this. Other kids are buying into this music. Then it became a corporate thing, and then the glam stuff happened, and then it became, all the cool factor was like, wait, now these guys are acting like rock stars. Like, this wasn't supposed to be rock star music. This was supposed to just have a certain kind of attitude and energy to it. Mm-hmm. And so now I feel like with the modern metal that's going on, it's like it's back to the point where it's like it's a sacred thing. So all these bands are chill, they're cool. You can talk to them and kind of be on the same wavelength. They're not these like these glam stars or whatever. But getting on stage is always a serious thing. When you see them play live, the sound that comes out, it's larger than life. And then you talk to them, they're just normal people. And
right.
Yeah, that's one thing that drew me to the whole Motorhead thing. Like I said, like I met Lemmy when I was 14, and I saw that, and that's why I'm like, that's what I like. I want to be like that. Like, it's a normal dude. He'll talk to anybody. There's no line. There's no division. There's no BS. There's the guy. But he just happens to blow your face off with his marshals behind him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's super cool. I was like, wow, I like that. I didn't think that would be that way,
And
yeah.
There's a lot of pretentiousness. I don't know what the word, but yeah, when it comes to like a lot of metal bands, it does, or at least during, maybe like you're saying nowadays, it's like come around again to where people are having more fun with it. But it seemed like, like maybe like you said, the 80s, there was like, I'm a golden god, like the glam guys, and then like even in like there was like even the early 2000s, there was like another shift, and all of a sudden, like you said, the Pro Tools era where everything was nice and clean and buttoned up, and we're perfect musicians. But then it just seemed to do another turn where it seems like everybody's just having fun with it again. There's so many. I am so behind on all the bands. It's like usually it's like you, Sean. You'll like bring up something that I end up like listening to. I think I'm blanking now, but yes, it's usually I'll go to you like, what's going on now?
Yeah, and I don't know about these bands until we'll be on the road, and we'll either stumble across them or they'll play with us or whatever, and it's like, oh, that's cool. It reminds me of this, and that's how I find out, because I always go back to the same stuff too. I think it's a typical thing. I think most people there's nothing that's gonna move you more than the first thing you heard. It's just the way it is.
Right.
When you first put the needle down on that record or CD or whatever it was that you listened to for the first time, and that sound came out, you're like, whoa, what is this? And there's nothing that'll ever replace it. Nothing. You could search your whole life, you won't find it. I mean, I just think,
Yeah.
Now, do you have a particular moment in your life that you remember exactly that like changed the course of the music that you listened to, or pretty much turned you into the person that you are now? Like I always just say this, and Ian knows the story of when I first heard, like, there was a sample on, I think it was, I'm trying to remember what it was on. I don't think it was Relapse Records, but it was like Nuclear Blast or something like that. And they were playing, they had an, Amorphous. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like they had Weeper on the Shore as a sample. And I never knew like music like that could be so melodic and also like brutal at the same time. And I'll to this day I'll never forget. I knew exactly where I was. I was hanging out with my friend in front of this place called Newberry Comics, and it pretty much like changed my view of like what music can do or what metal can do.
It's wild. You can actually smell those moments.
Yes.
Like, I swear, like I can smell the must from that cassette I got, that Metallica cassette. Like, I mean, it was in a garage sale and down the street, and like the tapes, it just had that musty, like basement, waterlogged smell to it. And then I put it on and listened to it, and like it just, made that experience that much better. You know what I mean? And it was like, I remember putting it on and first hearing Battery, and then it keeps going and going, and you're like, oh my God, it's just like listening to Beethoven or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fuck.
Has anyone ever come up to you and said something similar? That the music has like changed my view of, you know.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, you know, you're in that when I'm, you know, I know that position, you know, I know that position where it's like when I heard it, I'm like, wow. And then when someone comes to me and says, oh, dude, you know, your music and seeing you guys live, it was unbelievable. It was just like, I never, you know, this is the first time I've really experienced something like this. And it's just like, it's just so humbling, you know, me, I just like, I see myself in, you know, that way, you know, it's awesome, dude. I mean, that anybody could, you know, that's like the main dream to have, I guess. I don't know what's making it. Something like that would totally be it, you know?
Right.
So just having a stranger come up to you and say, dude, your music kind of changes the way I perceive other music, you know, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you get the guitar. You're in basically what you said. You and Jay really start playing about. You're probably sixth grade, because Jay's got what, 2 years on us, a year.
Well, actually, in grade school, like fifth, sixth grade, I wasn't like playing in a band or jamming with him really, because he had his friends and they were in middle school. So actually, Bob Vocac's brother, Jason, would go over his house and they would jam all the time. And I kind of was separate from him back then. It wasn't until I think high school when we really started playing. So there was probably a good 3-4 years in between where, you know, we were both on the side doing our own little things and kind of, you know, he had his friends, I had my friends.
Yeah.
Then at some point in high school, we're like, well, why don't we just play music together, you know? Over here, it'd be easy.
Yeah, I think that's the only, I mean, that was early 2000, because I mean, I moved up here in 2000. So yeah, it was 2000 when I moved up here. So that's when I met you guys, and I had a bass, and I lied and said I played bass a lot, even though I didn't.
You lied good though. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, because that's what I remember going over, and your parents, your guys' parents, were the most. What is the word? They put up with a lot of crap, man.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's why like I don't give them crap about, like, they don't like anything I do, you know, like they listen to Midnight, they're like, what is this bullshit, dude? This is the worst band I ever heard. That's what my mom said. She's like, Midnight's got to be the worst band I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, hey, whatever.
She's like, you're playing with who? Nunslaughter?
Yeah, I mean, she still don't understand it, but at the same time, you know, that's cool. You know, they let us jam in their basement for years.
I was going to say, it was
and
at least a solid 5.
Yeah, they would be eating dinner upstairs, and we would be freaking on full blast jamming downstairs, and they never complained, man. They were always cool about it. They never really got pissed. You know, maybe there was probably moments, I guess, where, you know, we were acting like idiots, but who doesn't, you know?
Yeah. It's crazy, yeah, because they would just, like, me just leaving the basement to go outside or something for a minute, have a cigarette or whatever. And then, like, just like you said, it was full blast. It was, everybody had a stack. It was in the basement, you know, live drums. There was no digital. Everybody has headphones on. I think it
was great full stack.
I think it was at one point, I don't know if it was me and you and Jay's vocals at one point were coming through one speaker. Like, everybody shared a cab at one point, but then
it was a gray Fender cabinet, and then we had a powered mixer that ran through that.
Yeah.
And that was the PA. And then I think we all plugged into it, and I had a pedal that plugged, because there was like an 8-channel powered mixer, and I plugged the guitar into the one input and then the bass into the other and then the vocals, so it'd all be on there. And we didn't really, that was before we even had amps.
Yeah, that was everybody's like, all right, we're going to do something. But yeah, playing through one speaker.
Fender 4x12 cabinet. Yep, I remember that one.
It's a beast.
Yeah, I wish I still had it.
Well, that's how it is in the you know, in the early stages of you know, in your career, is just keep on jamming until you can buy more gear and be able to expand out.
And with I guess with them allowing this nonsense to go on, do you think you would have, if you didn't have parents that would allow that and allow the noise and allow you to practice constantly and buy you the equipment, you know, do you think you would have stuck with it as much?
Well, I mean, as far as the equipment going, I have to say I did buy all my own stuff.
Oh, you did?
I worked with, Eric's dad, landscaping, cutting grass or whatever. And I did save up to buy my first guitar and things like that. My first actual guitar and my first amp. But, they bought me, guitars for or like an acoustic guitar or something for Christmas or something. But in all fairness, though, they always supported. My mom always tried to take me to get guitar lessons and things like that. And she was always she took me to Cleveland Music for years just to practice with a teacher, like doing classical guitar. And I did that for a long time. But yeah, I mean, it would have been hard to really comprehend what it would have been like.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, who knows? Maybe I would have went to someone else's house. I don't know. I mean, maybe we wouldn't have connected like my brother and myself ever playing, because he had his thing and I had my thing. And if we couldn't play at home, there was no common area. So that's it's a question that could have been like Back to the Future. Is it going to be a plateau effect or butterfly effect?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, in Cleveland Music, like you went on to teach there for a while, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I took classical guitar lessons from a guy, Dirk Garman, actually, awesome guitar player. But he was a classical. He taught me classical guitar, but he also loved like Paul Gilbert and Yngwie and like shreddy guitar stuff. So he understood where I was coming from because he knew I liked hard rock, but I just was so into music and wanted to learn all this stuff. So he taught me kind of what I needed to know to get to that point. And then as those lessons went on, I started getting a little better. And then he's like, dude, why don't you just teach here? You could teach kids other, what you know. And then that's what I did. So I taught at Cleveland Music after that.
And like he said, it was a lot of shreddy stuff. Everybody was amazed with your playing because you were a kid playing Yngwie, just this, just constant stuff. Was it just the technicality? Oh, excuse me. The technicality, the just mastery of the instrument that wowed you with that stuff that said, I need to learn how to get my fingers to move that fast.
I can tell you another moment. My Uncle Jimmy, you know Uncle Jimmy.
Uncle Jimmy.
Crazy, awesome, perverted uncle. He's awesome. But anyway, we were going on we used to have a cabin in Pennsylvania, my family did. So we were on a road trip there one time, and he pulls out this CD. He's like, dude, have you ever heard of this guy play guitar? And it's, it was Yngwie Odyssey album. He was a big fan of Joe Lynn Turner, who sang for Rainbow and, a bunch of other stuff. But he put that CD on. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, that was like, I never heard anything like this. Like, that was at a point when I was like getting so into metal and the music on, but I just wanted to like learn everything. I didn't want to like just not, just say, this is it. This is the only thing I want to know. It's like, dude, I want to know everything. I want to be able to play everything as much as I can on guitar. I want to be able to like, if anybody asked me to play a song, I could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my motivation. But the more as I started dabbling into other things, there was a certain magnet that kind of stuck me to one side. But at that point in time, it was very exciting because it was just like a slew of just all this cool technical stuff I was listening to, and I liked it and I appreciated it. And I still kind of get into it, not to that level. But that moment though, my uncle busted out that CD, the Yngwie one. Yeah, it was like very wow. Did some intense guitar playing,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know a lot of people who do those, guitarists who are in metal bands. They always talk about what got them into, like how technical they got into it. And the one particular one that always sticks in my mind was like Brett Hines from Mastodon. Yeah. And he asked his dad, I remember, like he wanted to learn guitar, but his dad said, no, you got to learn how to play the banjo first. And so he took it for like 7 years or something like that. And then his dad was at the bottom of guitar. And he learned from playing what he did from the banjo, because that's a lot of picking, and very complicated, very serious kind of strumming going on there. A lot of picking on both ends, and that obviously that goes through in the music that he's been playing on a lot of those albums.
Yeah, because now that you say that, I'm like, now that you mentioned banjo and then like what limited knowledge I have of Mastodon, I'm like, that does make sense because some of their, I mean, I think it's more their newer stuff, but yeah, if there's something like there was one song that had an acoustic guitar, but yeah, it's like that banjo picking, like almost in a way. Now that you bring it up, I'm like, oh my God, that is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes a band unique. You know, everybody has a whole different background, what they grew up on and what they learned how to play. And it is a huge factor on what they sound like, you know. I mean, it goes all the way back to those blues guys, you know. They played the same stuff, but they all had a different background. You know, Hendrix, Clapton, they could play Hey Joe, and it would sound like Hendrix when he did it. It would sound like Clapton when he did it, or whatever. You know, it was just kind of like everybody's background really comes out, and that's what's cool about it. And I like guitar players that are like that. You know, they have their own personality and they make it their way. Yeah,
because wasn't like Cliff Burton from Metallica? Wasn't he like classically trained bass guitarist? And
like he would help those guys arrange all the arranging of the melodies and harmonies and stuff like that on those early records. So it's like, you know, Hetfield would always claim, you know, that was Cliff kind of showing us what to do, where to play it, you know?
Right. Yeah. And then like same thing with Les Claypool, because he was a jazz bassist, and he took that into like what he did.
Yeah. And like for me, like it was weird because like put myself into those shoes. Like I was dabbling into all these styles with classical and stuff. And I'm like, well, how the heck am I going to put this into what I like? And a lot of those like early Eternal Legacy songs that were with my brother, he wrote a lot of that music. And I just had to figure out, well, how am I going to just kind of throw my ideas in here to make it sound like that? And, you know, that was my take on it. But yeah, it's interesting. And that's what's cool. Like if you just start like, if you have that mentality when you start out and play and you're just like, I just want to try this, I want to try that, I want to try this and see how this sounds.
Right.
And it's cool to look back though and see what stuck. That's the best part of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, and you mentioned, I mean, I guess we'll bounce back and forth, but like Eternal Legacy, that was, I guess when I was jamming with you guys, it was Mercenary at the time.
Oh yeah.
And then, you guys switched over to Eternal Legacy at some point. I can't even remember, but yeah, but that went for a while. Cause that ended up in the end, the lineup for Eternal Legacy is who became Vandalus, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve's not really doing the Vandalist stuff with us now. It's we got another guy. Doing it.
Okay.
Like Steve. I mean, Steve was Vandalist kind of was like an idea. Actually, Jamie kind of. We were on tour and he's like, "Dude, I got these like Dokken type tunes, man. You guys should use this." Or you know, I'm like, "Dude, my brother was just talking to me about doing something like that." So.
Oh, really?
He came over with his cassette 4-track and he's like, here, take these songs and let's record them, you know? And then we did that first Vandalist record. I played drums on half the record and I'm like, Steve, I need help on a couple tunes. Can you come out and do it, you know? And then he came out and did it. And then the second one, he ended up having nothing to do at that point and just say, yeah, I'll just learn the songs and do it. And then the third one was like, oh, well, I don't know, man. We're doing a lot of midnight stuff now. I don't really have time, so...
Oh yeah, well, and Dan, because we're talking in like shorthand here, but Steve is actually the drummer for Midnight Now, the live drummer.
Yeah. Yes, he is,
and he's been friends with, since we met.
I knew Steve since first grade.
I was gonna say, you guys had a background before I met him. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, we used to play basketball on the same team, you know, back then, and like we had no idea music-wise what anybody was into, like, because we kind of kept in touch through our mutual friends and things like that. But like, it wasn't until one year, and like, you know, my buddy's like, dude, you know, Steve listens to metal. I'm like, what? You know? But anyways, to answer your question, Ian, the Eternal Legacy, did somewhat become Vandalist.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't,
because I think Eternal Legacy kind of hit a wall with the sound, because it was like the first album sounded very progressive and power metal. The second one was a little more power metal, and the third one was a little bit more heavy metal. straightforward.
Yeah.
And at that point, we're like, well, what is it going to sound like? So
What is this band actually?
yeah. So that's why it's kind of been in a halt for a while, because it's like, well, what would an Eternal Legacy album sound like at this point? You know, what could we do with it to take it beyond, or what? I mean, I don't know.
Now,
it was cool.
Eternal Legacy, that was your vessel to getting overseas for the first time and playing a festival.
Yeah.
Like what was that experience like, being 16, something like that? 17
or 18. Bill Peters came up to me and like,
And Bill Peters is the radio host
I
around
was
here.
adamant.
Okay.
Back then I was so like, I just wanted to play. Like, it was like, I don't care what it was. Like, just let me play. I need to play in a band, you know, and like the whole Gravity thing. Like, we had these little side bands. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do as many bands as I can just to see where I can kind of go with it. And then, Bill Peters came to me and says, "Hey, dude, I got an offer for one of his Auburn Records band, Wretch, to play a show at Headbangers Open Air in Germany. They don't have a guitar player. Would you be interested?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course."
Yeah.
You know, I had to pay that first flight, which was like $1,100.
Oh, geez.
I remember that. And like, yeah, so it was like, I said yes to that. And then sure enough, it worked out where, you know, Eternal Legacy, our first album came out like around that time. And he's like, "Hey, I'll put your record out and maybe I can have you guys open up the show or something." And we did. So we went over there and I played 2 sets. I played with Eternal Legacy and then I played with Wretch, which was later that night. But yeah, that was all through Bill and just my, you know, it's kind of like me wanting to just kind of talk to everybody and try to figure out how I can get over there, really, you know.
And I guess since then it's been pretty much nonstop with music, you know.
Yeah, 2007 was that first festival that we played. So yeah, since then it was that one, and then we were recording more music. So it wasn't until 2010 when Eternal Legacy came back and we did the Wacken show, and then we did like a little tour. We did a couple dates with Shock Paris in Germany. Like, I think it was like 4 dates, 3 or 4 shows. And that was it. And then after that, that's when I started coming more. Then, you know, filled in for the band Breaker, then the Manimals, and then in 2012 is when I did Midnight, started that, and then that's when we started doing a couple one-offs, and then it came a little bit more, then a little bit more, then sure enough, we're starting to do tours, and then that kind of consumed everything at that point.
Yeah, we're at about 40 minutes now. Don't want to keep you forever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Do you want to ask that? Do you have any more questions to ask me?
Oh, no, I go ahead, Dan, if you got something you want to get into.
I don't know. I'm always fascinated about when people make the whole, you know, the process of making the albums, especially with metal and everything. Do you always go into making an album with a concept or a story, or do you just like, you know, you write the music and it is what it is? There's no mental, like, no one should be like kind of like set in kind of like a storyline when they listen to the albums, or is it that, like, do they go and they listen to this music and it's like, you know, once again, you know, I'll go back to Mastodon again, but like, you know, a lot of their albums are all concept albums. Yeah. And so I just wondered about like all the bands that you've been in. Have you ever like, you know, hey, I have this idea, let's kind of weave it into the music that we're playing or we're writing about?
You know, I've often thought about doing a couple concept things. I've never done it like that, just because it's not really. There was no reason. I like bands like Savatage, and they did a couple concept records, which I thought was cool. I usually write what comes to my head, like. Right. If I have an idea, I hear it, I'm like, oh, cool. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a certain way. Now, if I feel a certain way, I might have ideas for vocals and lyrics, but that might be just for one song. Right. Now, for me, being that I write songs so often now, I write for a lot of different things. You know, I'm just writing. So I'm like, okay, well, that could be this kind of song, or this could be this kind of song. And then I start piling up songs in different directions. And then when I feel like, okay, I'm inspired to do a Vanek record, I'm going to go over these tunes, listen to them, and then I kind of make a playlist and see how they sound together. Because when I make a record, I don't necessarily think about a concept.
Right.
I like to have a flow. I like to have a song. I like to have ups and downs. I like to have like a roller coaster effect with my songs. You know, it's not just singles. I know we're living in a singles world now with music, but I'm still in that record mindset where I like to have an album go up and down. You know, you start off with a banger, and then it gets like a rocker, and then maybe a slower one, and then it goes back into it, you know, stuff like that. Like, that's kind of my mind of concept. I look at it that way. So when I'm approaching to make a record, I start with a couple ideas, and then I put the ideas together and see how I can kind of make it into a context, into a book, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's actually my favorite part. Like, my favorite part is he's taking basic ideas, and they're like basic, very basic ideas when I demo it. And then I just try to build it into a record. You know, I don't know what it's going to end up sounding like. You know, you don't know until you do it.
Right.
I like that uncertainty part of it. I know some people are very like, oh, I got to spend a lot of time to get, you know, to make sure it's right. And I don't do that. It's not that I'm trying to make sure it's right. I just know I'm in a moment. I'm going to record it, and I'm going to capture the moment. I'm not going to capture a whole time frame. I'm capturing a moment, because to me, that's more special. So
I was going to say
concept.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Oh, no. I was going to say concept album. I would say the Vanek albums themselves, not our concepts, but there's a theme.
Yeah, it's theme oriented.
Yeah,
you know?
it's more of an idea that's just
Gotcha.
throughout the whole thing, right?
Exactly. Like, when I approach the Vanek stuff, now, my favorite things in life, you know, as far as hobbies or whatever go, you know, it's heavy metal and horror movies. So I wanted to create this ultimate, and I like Halloween, and I like Kiss, and I like that whole Alice Cooper mystique, and I you know, so I wanted to create a character that's all driven around Halloween or horror that plays heavy metal, because all the horror oriented bands are like, you know, like a Typo Negative or even like a rockabilly band or something. Those are the sound of like a horror. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that's cool. I like some of those bands, but I see it a little differently, you know? So I kind of have it, you know, that's how I kind of came up with that. And then, yeah, everything is generally the same when it comes to theme. I try to keep it, you know, that whole horror mystique, whether it be about, you know,
right.
all the songs are about different things.
So I like you brought up the character of Vanek. So does who is Vanek? Like, what's the story of Vanek when you talk about that?
Well, my last name's Vanek with an E.
Yeah. Yep.
And then in Midnight, it's Commander Vanek with an I. And I'm kind of like, you know, it just makes sense to kind of, I liked it a lot. And like, Jamie actually came up with that, you know. I have to actually almost give him credit in a lot of ways to creating the name, Vanek with an I. But he always said, well, it's just your last name, just misspelled, you know.
Yeah.
It's Clark Kent with the Superman glasses versus no glasses. It's like,
but that's what I liked. I liked that it was like, okay, it could be you, but it's spelled differently. So I don't know. And then the image, that vampire face, comes. I had a tattoo that I really liked. It was of a mask, that studio's Nosferatu mask that we took a picture of, and actually James Bullock, a ringworm, did it. He did the tattoo of it, and I'm like, you know what? If I ever did anything, that would be the logo, because it's kind of that. I was always drawn to that symbol. I was always drawn to that Salem's Lot Nosferatu, and it would be so cool to have that as the logo. You know, I can't do that in Eternal Legacy or the Vandalist stuff. It's because it's not my thing. So
right.
But that's kind of how that started. So it started with the name from Midnight, and then kind of the idea of the horror and the concept kind of came together just by, I don't know, just who knows.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's yeah. Who knows? That's and going to that same vein. Typically, what we've been doing is anyone that we've been interviewing, we've been asking a movie recommendation. If it's like your top one movie that you watch obsessively, or a movie that is not really well known that people should check it out. Just wanted to ask you, what movie would you refer to the people who are listening that they should check out?
I mean, I love all the movies everybody hates. So my suggestion is to be a little open-minded by looking at bad reviews from Rotten Tomatoes. Watch those movies.
Yeah.
All the movies that they review that you get like 3 or 4 stars. Oh, I'm gonna see that movie, and I watch them, and I'm like, this is fucking great. What's wrong with you people? What's wrong with this movie?
Yeah.
And if I show it to Nina, she'll be like, what the hell? My wife, she'll be like, what the hell are you watching? This is stupid.
You Americans are crazy.
Movie I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
But to answer your question, it's like Return of the Living Dead is a great one. All the Friday the 13th.
I was going to say Jason has to be.
Movies.
I was going to say Jason seems to be one of your faves. I know that much.
I mean, those are my favorites. Now, do you want me to answer in a sense of a recent one I saw that I'm like, you got to check this out?
Oh, that's cool. What's a recent one?
Yeah, what's a recent one?
Whoa, wait a minute. I don't know. It's like I'll watch an older movie that I haven't seen.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's what I've been doing. I've been watching a lot of anything that's been released on Amazon or like on HBO Max or something like that. I watch it. The worse, the better. So
yeah, it's so hard.
Thing, though, the cool thing about nowadays is like all these movies, like all these like Lucio Fulci movies, like these crazy Italian horror movies you would never know about. But nowadays you have the internet and you can easily find it. Mm-hmm. There's so many good ones. But to answer your question, the recent one I saw was American Werewolf in London, which is kind of a classic. But I
love that movie.
It's such a great movie.
I
love it.
And it has good repeatability. So
I'll have to go back and watch that.
What's that?
I said I'll have to go back and watch it. It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, there's always like you watch it the first time and then you watch it in succession, and then you miss things the first time that you see for the first time again when you watch it. Like repeatability.
There's something to be said about that. Like, I feel like the older movies, they take a lot longer to set up. And like, I'll watch it with like somebody who's maybe a little younger and they're like, dude, this movie is too slow. Why?
Yeah.
Like, dude, what are you talking about, man? You got to pay attention. You got to watch.
Right.
Like, those movies, you find things every time you watch it. Like, it's like an airplane movie. If you look in the background, you'll see a dude cleaning a window falling off the ladder. Which actually happens, and I never saw that until years later. I'm like, whoa, I never noticed that. But those older movies weren't like hitting you with a bang, 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 loud explosion,
jump cut, jump scare,
action packed.
Yeah.
You feel it. You know what I mean? It took a little bit. So I kind of like that. I love the suspense. I love the suspense build up. Like I love the John Carpenter movies because John Carpenter was very good at that. He didn't blow his load at the very first second. Am I allowed to like?
Oh, we'll figure it out. It's fine. We're good. We don't have any restrictions.
That's Ian's job.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's Ian's job.
This is how I talk. But John Carpenter was always he was very the suspense was always there, and he really drew my attention. Like I love those movies. The Thing, Halloween, of course. I mean, you show somebody Halloween '78 right now, they would laugh. They'd be, that's not a scary movie. It's so slow, but
don't tell Eric and Eric and Joel that.
Well, don't tell me that because I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, because for a while you were part of I'm saying Eric and Joel, but they had the haunted yard, and you guys would set that up every year between the backyards and just these giant displays. Even if it wasn't a haunted house, you guys would still do the yard displays. And Halloween's like I mean, even at your house, you got the swamp monsters and the, you know, different props you build like yourself, the chicken wire and PVC structure and stuff. You make your own.
I hope that stuff doesn't go away, because I love that. And, you know, that could be just because I grew up with it, with Eric and his brother, because they're originally the ones who got me into it, which is awesome. You know, that's how it works. But like, yeah, I love like around like this time of year, you know, I can go in the garage and start building my stuff and putting out in the front yard and like, but the 100 yards we used to do was just so elaborate and awesome, man. It was, I can't believe how much we got away with.
Well, one of the, I guess we're making sort of a through line is collections or obsessions. I guess your obsession is music.
Yeah.
But is there something outside of that you got like is there something that you like latch onto? You're like, oh, I like that. I got to collect all of, you know, is it movies, music, or
you got a whole separate room of stuff.
You know, it's funny because I thought about that, and like, you know, Jamie's a record collector. He's got so much vinyl. I can't even.
Yeah, it looks like a store or a library.
You know, a lot of the guys I hang out with or I play music with, they all have these massive record collections, and I look at mine. I'm like, Jesus Christ, look this. This is laughable. I mean, from what I got. But as far as collecting goes, honestly, I'm constantly writing music. I'm constantly learning. Like I find it. I'm very intrigued about doing it, getting hands on. Like, it's cool to have, like, you know, collectible stuff, but me, I'm like, man, I got to learn how to do this. I got to learn how to make my own music. I got to learn how to do this style with the studio gear. So yeah. I almost like, I spent so much money and time into like studio equipment and music equipment that collecting is almost like, I
would say that is your collection. That's like,
it is like, I don't have like, there's a lot of stuff I could tell you right now that I would love to be able to collect, you know, guitars, of course, too. But at one point I did have 20 some guitars, and I ended up selling all of them because I'm like, I don't even play these things. Yeah. I feel guilty because I'm like, why? They're just sitting here, you know? So I'm not as intense about collecting at all, about anything. I'm a music lover, and I'm constantly working. I'm a workaholic too. Like I love to work on music. So that my collection lies within my discography or my songwriting and things like that. I mean, I still don't feel like I've written one of my great songs yet. You know, I've written a lot of songs, but it's a constant quest that I think never gets fulfilled for any artist of that matter.
So like you said, like you felt you haven't written your penultimate song or anything like that. Do you feel it? Once you start writing, do you feel that when you start that song, it's gonna be the penultimate, or are you gonna like work towards the penultimate song, or
I try not to think that. Like I think
right.
It's important to not really worry about it. Like I'm not worried. I'm just worried about, okay, what's my mood? I want to create the song that captures that mood completely. And whatever happens with it, happens with it. You know, it's like a kid, you know, you raise a kid and then he turns out to be whatever he turns out to be. You don't know where it's going to go. The song's the same way. A song kind of just all of a sudden somebody might listen to it and then he tells his friend and then they tell theirs and then blah, blah, blah. And it keeps going. And like, I feel like a great song is something that it's an obsession. People just can't get enough of it. You can't there's been songs I've written where I'm like, man, I love this song. I'm so proud of it. Like I'll listen to it all the time and I'm happy about it. But I don't think there's the one where it's just like, oh man, this one just has a life of its own. It's bigger than myself, you know?
Right.
When that happens, I'll let you know.
I think we'll all know. No.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have kids? You're married, but do you have kids? And are they musically inclined as well, or how old are they actually?
3 and 6.
Okay, so it's pretty early, but
yeah. I mean, they're starting to, like, you know, I have a drum set down here, and they start bashing away at it. And, you know, we have piano, we have music instruments all over the whole house, like guitars, drums, everything downstairs. There's a piano upstairs. There's one in the living room. There's acoustic. So they're around it. You know, they see it happening. We listen to music all the time. We make funny songs about whatever.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, you guys as a family I love you guys. It's just awesome because, you can check it out. Is that on your YouTube?
I think, we have my wife and I have it's called Vanek Inc. And we write music for TV and film and stuff. So just
cool.
TV shows and things like that. But we do a lot of one-off songs, and there was one that we did with just about dinosaurs because my son's all into dinosaurs, and I'm like, yeah, man, I want to listen to a real dinosaur song. You know, it sounds like T-Rex, so it's like a death metal tune with him singing on it. That's perfect.
Oh yeah, that, and I mean, we made the video and everything. So yeah, you can go check out the hit Dinosaurs on Vanek. I guess Vanek Inc. It's VANEK.
With an E.
VANEKINC. Vanek Inc.
And I feel like with those guys, the kids, it's just like I'm gonna let them kind of have a life of their own and see where it takes them. You know, I'm not gonna start cramming. I mean, I'm gonna blast Motorhead whether they like it or not. You know, they'll hear it. They know it. They know all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing too.
Yeah, whether they grasp on it or not, I don't know. You know.
Yeah. Well, just think of one thing. Sometimes those obsessions about dinosaurs, they don't go away. I'm living proof. I have a couple of dinosaur tattoos. So,
it's cool.
I was gonna say dinosaurs, Godzilla.
Yeah, Godzilla, whole Godzilla half sleeve got going on here. So yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that inner kid in yourself. Just let it be with you all the time. Never abandon it, because if you've abandoned that, you've abandoned your soul. I mean, that's what kind of inspired you to want to move forward and be the person you are. You know what I mean? Don't abandon that shit. But that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's sweet. No matter what it is.
Well,
that's a picture.
I was going to say, I know it's pretty late, and you guys actually have to work tomorrow. I'm on the day off from you guys.
Oh yeah.
So
nice.
And the kid's back at school, so yeah.
Sorry for having to be so late, man.
Oh
no. Actually, this is perfect. We typically do it around this time anyway, so don't worry about that.
Yeah. I was going to say, go ahead. You go ahead, Dan.
All right. Well, I was going to say, I'm Vanek, do you have websites that you want to promote? Any projects that you have out now, or any tours that are going to be happening? The whole spiel, the whole thing. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the Vanek stuff is like a ball that keeps on rolling constantly. I that's what I'm saying. It's like the ultimate project for me. I always have ideas. I'm always writing music for. There's no shortage of ideas when it comes to that thing. So I have a tape coming out this October, and I have that, and we have a Vandalist album that we just finished too early this year, full record that we're gonna have come out actually in 2 weeks. And, so
October is Vanek season.
Yeah, right? I try to I gear all my Vanek stuff all around that, because that's kind of where I want it to be.
Right.
And then the Vandalist it always is somewhere around there for some reason. I don't know why. I'm always kind of writing a record around that same time with my bro. But then of course Midnight is always my top priority. I mean, as of now, not so much, because I guess gigs are starting to kind of, I don't know what's happening really. It's really hard to say, but once gigs start kicking in, we've got tons of stuff. We're booked solid for a long time, but it's just a matter of what's going to happen. I mean, we've got 2 European tours booked next year, along with a full U.S. tour. And, I'm sure it goes far beyond that. But just to name a few, I mean, a lot of big festivals. So Midnight is one of those things you can always keep an eye out for. There's a lot of stuff that's been recorded. We did this song for a compilation when we were in Vegas. We went into the studio and did it.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah. But as far as pages go, you can find all my stuff, because I everything I do, I do it all myself, because that's the way I like it personally. I don't have to go through anybody. It's easy. I have a Bandcamp, just the vanecwithanI.bandcamp.com. I mean, that you'll find all the Vanek stuff. I'll post up Vandalist albums, and every once in a while I have a couple rare midnight things that I put up on there to sell. But it's kind of my home base now. I like to use it. It's easy and it's cool. I could check out other bands through it too. But that's the page to go to. Other than that, yeah, man. I mean, it's a matter of I'm already on the next project. I finished the Vanek thing. I'm already working on another one. I got other songs in my mind that I'm getting ready to put out for something else. So it's just kind of a big whirlwind right now.
And I guess, and you think, I'll ask maybe here, like maybe one or two more real quick. Jamie recording all of his stuff, all the instruments, doing it himself. Was that something that floored you with like, well, I can just do it on my own? I
like it. Honestly, I love the fact people are like, man, don't you get aren't you bummed out that you're not playing on a record or whatever? I'm like, no, not at all. First of all, I went into the band liking the music. I love the band. I love the sound. And I'm the type of person that's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Or wait, did I say that wrong? I don't know.
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, don't fix it. Don't fix it. You know what I mean? It was good. It's a good sound. He had a good thing going. And the cool thing about Midnight, the live experience, and that's what I think makes it like really over the edge, is like people see a different experience live. They see a band. It captures the same essence of the records, but I think it takes it a step above live. Personally, I think so.
You take it a step above, man. You're flying around the stage. I mean, this picture we're looking at now, you got both feet kicked up in the air. you're jumping off the amps. You guys are smashing stuff. Jamie's climbing on the PAs. Like, it's a sight to see. Like, even just, it's definitely a good show, and it seems like it's over too fast. Like you're just in it. He does not stop. You guys barely stop. It's like the song ends and he's like, all right, just on to the next one. There's maybe a little bit of banter here or there just to let somebody catch their breath or take a drink real quick. But he's just, 1, 2, 3, go, next one. But
it's such an experience. And I like that part of it. And it's cool because I walk away after the gig. I can go back at home after a tour and write my Vanek record, and it's all mine. This is my record. This is what I love collaborating. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it is great to collaborate, and we've done some stuff together, but still, it keeps that separate. And I have my creative outlets, and there's nobody telling us, hey, you can't do that. You're in Midnight now. You can't play anything else. You
got a contract you signed, man.
No, man. We're all just normal dudes. It's like, hey, we're making music. We're playing shows. It's like, that's what we do. We're not trying to tell somebody what to do. What I mean? We're just doing our own thing. So it's cool. Really quick, I clicked right off the bat with Jamie, and we kind of were on the same page with a lot of things. And it's kind of like, I'm cool with it. I have no issues. I think it's great. I don't think it should change. I mean, who knows what'll happen in the future? But as of now, it's cool how it works.
And what has been the craziest? The crazy. I know all the Midnight fans are all special in their unique way. All the shows, have their own fire, their own heat. What's one that you just like? A show you remember? We won't go bad, but what's the one that you're like, wow, that was? I can't believe we just did that.
We luckily survived.
Oh man,
or not even that, just like blew your mind with the audience, or like some,
Yeah, there's a few that come to mind. There's so many, because a lot of shows have been like that. They've been like, what just happened? Oh my God, But one in particular that stands out right now is we played a show in Santiago, Chile, I think back in 2013, and Evil Confrontation Festival. It was a lot of fun to play. But anyways, we get in, we load in. I think we're there hanging out around 6 or 7, having dinner. And then we sit and we're just kind of watching. And then all of a sudden we see these people just take a PA system off the stage and start leaving.
Just walking out.
And I look over at Jamie. I'm like, what the what is going on? Did you see what I see? like they're tearing down stuff, and the show's gonna start in like an hour and a half or something.
Oh, it hasn't even started yet.
It hasn't even started yet. Like this is like 7 o'clock or so, and so they're taking the gear off, and then all of a sudden the promoter comes upstairs, and he's kind of like really hesitant and like, hey guys, I just want to let you know, we fired the sound guy. He wasn't doing his job right, and we just hired a new one. He's gonna come in here. They're gonna put the stuff up, and we're gonna be all good. So what happened was they fired the first sound guy, and they got a new sound. We're not talking about just the sound guy. We're talking about the whole PA. They took down the whole PA and brought a whole new PA in, and it's already like 10 o'clock at night, and this is a festival, and there's like 8 bands that had to play. So we're like, well, what the hell time are we going on? Because we were playing it with a band called Enforcer from Sweden, and we were kind of, I don't know who was headlining at the time, but I think we played after them, and then it was like a headline show for them, and they kept going on and on. They kept doing encores, and we're like, dude, it's already 2 o'clock in the morning, man. People are gonna leave, and we're thinking, we're like, dude, this is so late. Nobody's gonna be here, but man, we went, right after they got done, we went to the stage, and the lights came on, and like people were just like rabid as hell. Everybody's wasted off their, everybody's just like in the moment, like, oh my God, midnight, whoa, and like that whole show was just insane. Like I remember the promoter was actually on stage holding the gear and holding things back because people were kind of like forward, just pushing towards the front of the stage. And at one point I picked up a speaker cabinet and crowd surfed it, and the whole crowd is surfing the cabinet, and like we smashed 1 or 2 guitars that night, and like it was just one thing after another, but it was just like the perfect moment because this crowd was just so rabid and intense. Like I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah, if they're sticking around through all that and that late, and they're still there. They're there.
You would never ever see that in the United States. You don't see that. You only see that in certain places where people are like, this is my moment. I don't care how late it is. I'm gonna be there, and I'm gonna freaking give it 110%.
Yeah.
You don't see that everywhere, and like. Yeah, you have that show, and then we played one in Dubai, and that's a whole nother story. Too.
Yeah,
We've got so many stories. We could do a whole episode.
I know, man. That's why I'm like, things keep popping into my head, and I'm like, especially the Dubai thing. I was wondering if you're going to bring that up because that was, definitely weird to just say in general. I played in Dubai, but
right.
Yeah,
but
we used to do a lot of like, to answer your question too. It's like back in the earlier days with Midnight. We would do a lot of one-off, or my earlier time, like we would do a lot of one-off shows. Like,
it wasn't a tour. It was just
places. Yeah, we would fly out to Dubai to play one show, then fly back home, and that's a long freaking flight. You know what I mean? So we would do that, and then the next weekend we would go to England and play a show in London, and then go back home. And that's how it was for years until we started. We're like, well, why don't we just tour? Why don't we play more shows while we're over there? It would make time maybe a little bit more worthwhile instead of playing 45 minutes and traveling for 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Their return on investment is not there.
Yeah.
No, but that's okay. Like at that point in time, we're like, dude, this is great. I mean, it was always, people really wanted to see us, so they put their money aside to kind of get us to go or whatever. And it wasn't really even about the money or anything. It was more about just, let's go play in Singapore. Let's just do it. And people want to see us. So if people want to see us, let's just go. So we did. And there's a lot of stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories.
Till the next episode.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thank you, Sean, for setting some time aside, chatting with us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. It was a pleasure to meet you and talk to you over this podcast. So
hopefully we can all meet up on hopefully you guys hit the Boston circuit on one of these tours, and I can get out there and.
Yeah, I mean, I do know right now there's I don't know if anything's set in stone to really say anything, but like so we'll see something. Hopefully we'll see what happens.
Would you start playing some music there, Dan?
Oh, Jesus Christ! It scared the hell out of me. Sorry about that.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
Oh, good.
I was gonna say I just saw your face and I barely heard some. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and yeah, we'll hopefully have you back here again. Maybe just do another shoot the segment, man. This was awesome. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and yeah, we'll hopefully have you back on here soon, man.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Thanks, Sean. Pleasure to meet you, man.
Yeah, likewise, man. You guys have a good evening.
All right, take care. Have a good night.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or suggestions, write to us at danandianpod@gmail.com or search Dan and Ian Have Questions Podcast on Facebook. Intro music provided by Ian Savage. Music produced and recorded by Sean Vanek at Mercenary Studios. Thanks again for listening.